I'm here with Nick Smith, one of the lead instructors at the Gander Mountain Academy. We're in Lake Mary, Florida. This is one of the flagship locations of Gander Mountain Academy. It's the largest academy, and we've done a lot of work down here. One of the things we see with students when we get out on the range or when we're in the simulators is failure. Talk to me about how failure plays a role in training, Nick.
Failure plays a huge role in training. Without failure, we wouldn't create the opportunities to expound on things that we need to work on a little more. So when we find those opportunities, we're going to use those to try and make the shooter more efficient at what they're doing and make them a better shooter at the end.
So a lot of students come in, especially people who have been shooters, they come into a defensive shooting class or come into a training environment, and obviously they want to do well, right? They have their confidence issues, they want to know that they can protect themselves, their families, maybe they're here with friends, there's a little peer pressure, kind of competition thing going on, and maybe they just want the approval of the instructor. How do you deal with those things that work so against someone putting themselves out there and pushing themselves to failure? How do you work against that, or how do you encourage them to get over that?
We push people past their comfort zone, which I think is what you're getting at. Pushing people to shoot a little faster, maybe put the target out a little bit further, and do some type of stress by creating competition within the range while we're in there as well.
So when people say to you, well, we need to make sure people leave here feeling good about themselves, feeling confident, how do you deal with that up against the reality of needing failure to motivate change?
Leaving happy and knowing your limitations are two different things. While we want everybody to leave happy, of course we do, but we also need them to know where their weaknesses are, and that, shooting and training for what we're training for isn't always a happy thing anyway. Dynamic of critical incident could be a bad situation. So the stress, it actually helps induce more stress by, I think, creating some points and pointing out the deficiencies.
So there's a big difference between beating up a student, making the student, think that they can't handle themselves, and merely letting them know what they can handle because they reach their limits and they understand what they need to work on the next time they come back and train?
Yes, exactly.
When you're on the range and you have a student who's failing because of their own ability, that's one thing, because it's easy to say, okay, you need to practice that more, or you've reached your limitations. How do you deal with gear failures? When someone comes out and their holster just isn't working, or their gun doesn't fit their hand, or maybe the gun's malfunctioning, is that positive, negative? How do you deal with that?
It's definitely a negative situation, but it's easily fixed to be a positive. It's probably actually one of the easiest things to fix is a gear change. We can take someone out right to our store here, find them a holster that works, find a firearm that fits their hand better, find them a firearm that they can manipulate more easily.
And that's one of the advantages, obviously, the Gander Mountain Academy location is you do have this great retail store right here, and if someone wants to switch out, they can. Have you had students go through that situation where they come in, they trusted the gun, they brought it to the class, they get out on the range, and they find out maybe it's a good thing they had that failure here and not during their dynamic critical incident?
Exactly. More often than not, people get a firearm that's either borrowed from someone or as a gift from a relative, typically. They get a firearm that isn't fit for them. They come here, they do realize that what they're carrying on a day-to-day basis isn't the best thing and may not get them out of a bad situation. So we have the opportunity now in a safe environment to figure out what isn't working, take them out there, find them something that does work for them, and then they're safer when they're carrying.
So successful training ultimately may be comprised of a lot of failure along the way, realizing what your limits are, realizing what you need to work on, taking advantage of those learning opportunities created by failure, and maybe even figuring out that your gear wasn't going to work when you needed it. Figuring that out here is much better. Nick, I appreciate your thoughts on failure in training here at the Gander Mountain Academy.